behalf of the organizing committee, WAIMS 2022, it's a time to welcome our resource person, Dr. S. Domnic, Associate Professor, Department of Computer Applications, NIT, Trichy. He has 14 years of teaching experience in NIT, and he has guided 6 PhD scholars. Data science and cognitive science is the research area of this professor, and he has completed major research project funded by DST, NVIDIA, ISRO, NRP, DRDO, and Qualcomm. He is serving as a doctoral committee member in SRM, VIT, and Anna University. He has many research publications in SCA, Scopus, and other in-text journals. Once again, I welcome you, sir. This session is yours.
Okay, thank you for the introduction.
Thank you, sir.
I share my screen. My screen visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay. So it is my pleasure to share my knowledge to the faculties and the students, scholars. The topic is AIN and computer vision, so artificial neural network and computer vision. So let me begin from artificial neural network, and then I discuss two computer, that is applications based on AIN. So I start from the beginning, from mathematical modeling to then complex artificial network and its applications. So from biological to artificial neurons. Biological neuron, that is a fundamental unit in biological brain. So here the artificial neuron is fundamental unit in artificial neural network. So how we can model it? So once we can understand the function of the biological neuron, the same thing can be modeled mathematically as the function of the mathematical, that is a function for artificial neuron. So here the major components of the biological neuron is dendrites, synapses, and the soma. So these are the very basic components in the biological neuron. The job of the or task of the dendrites, actually that is get the inputs from the other neurons. Okay, so brain is made up of millions of neurons. So here for each one neuron that base cell body, synapses is the weight. So now the dendrites of the neuron that will receive the inputs, okay, receive inputs from the other neurons, and that will be weighted. That is that job done by synapse. Then the process will happen by the will happen in the soma. That is the neuron cell body. So that is the major task of the biological neuron. Now the same thing, how we can realize or how we can model it mathematically. And one more thing is learning, because our brain will learn, okay, dynamically. So here in biological neuron, learning occurs via electrochemical changes in the effectiveness of the synaptic function. See, that is the learning in the biological neuron. So biological neuron receives inputs, and the inputs weighted. Then weighted inputs will be processed. Okay, will be processed and then thresholded, biased. Then finally it will give the output to the next neuron. This is the job of the biological neuron. Again I repeat. So biological neuron receive the inputs from the other neurons, then weighted. The weighted inputs will be processed. There will be aggregator, and then finally that limit the values. That is, after threshold, you will get the limited input, so limited output given to the other neurons. That is the thing. Then learning. So learning happens via electrochemical changes in the biological neuron. Now, how we can realize or how we can model this task mathematically. So that only here it's given. Okay. So now the dendrites. Dendrites is nothing but inputs. So here we are giving the inputs to the neuron. Okay, artificial neuron. Here weights. Okay, so synapse. So what is the job of the synapse? That will be we are calling is weights. W1, W2, W3, like that. Now these weighted inputs. Okay, weighted inputs. W input 1, W input 1, W2 input 2. So that will be weighted inputs. Then weighted inputs will be given to the soma. That is a aggregator. That is a linear aggregator. We can say sum of the weighted inputs. In simple we say sum of the weighted inputs. Then the sum of the weighted inputs will be given as a input to the function. Okay, that is the activation function. Altogether, that is the job of the cell body and the axon. Okay, so then finally that output will be given to the next neuron. So now, if you see the task of the biological neuron is mathematically modeled with the help of the inputs and weights. That's a notation and equations. In simple, we can say notations and mathematical symbols, notation and as a equation. Okay, so finally we will get the output. Okay, so this is the typical mathematical modeling of the biological neuron. So biological, so that is called artificial neuron, because we are biological neuron with the help of the mathematical modeling. Here learning, because learning occurs in the biological neuron. Same way here also learning occurs. Learning is in artificial neuron is nothing but change in the value of the connection weights. That is the learning. Okay, so this is so everything, whatever biological neuron is doing, the same thing we can do it in the mathematical model also. So here that is the we can that artificial neuron we call as a perceptron. Okay, perceptron. Then so here we in artificial neural network it is called as a node, single node. So what is the job of the single node? So that is given the step 1 multiplies each component of the input pattern by the weight of its connection. That is the multiplication of the inputs with weights. Then sum of the all weighted inputs and subtract the threshold value. So that is the sum of the what is suppose inputs x inputs x1, x2, x3 and weights w1, w2. In simple we say sum of the xi a and wi. Okay, so we can inputs x1, x2, x3. Okay, x1, x2, x3 and we can weights, we can say w1, w3. Then we can call sum of the wi xi. So that is a sum. Then thresholded. Then sum of the wi xi minus p thresholded. Okay, so that is a thresholded. Then the final value will be given to the activation function in order to limit the output value range. Limit the range. Okay, so that's why we are giving to the activation function. We will limit the output, the range. So based on the job of this activation function, if it is a step function, okay, step function, the value range will be 0, either 0 or 1. Suppose bipolar step function, the value will be range -1, 1 or 0 or 1. So here what we are doing, actually we are limiting the output of the artificial neuron. So that's why that is the job of the activation function. So this is the description about the artificial neuron. So the artificial neuron technically it's called perceptron. So now that this is a representation. So representation is see here the sum aggregation, linear aggregation, that is sum of the weighted inputs. Then activation function, the sum of the weighted inputs given as input to the activation function. So we will get the output of the activation function. That will be based on the nature of the activation function. We will get the range of the values, either discrete value or that is a limited number of values, or that is infinite number of values between the range. Actually, in between any value we can obtain, but the range, lower range, upper range will be limited. So in one, if you take the node, okay, if you take the node, so inside what will happen? Summation will be there. Activation, that is called the input function. So that is the input function will be there. Then activation will be there. So altogether, we can represent as a node. Graphical representation is a node. See here, input and weights, then linear aggregation, then activation function. So that is happening in a node, artificial ANN node. Okay. So if you draw the circle in the artificial neural network, the circle denotes or indicates input function and activation function. It's a meaning. Okay, that is you have to keep in your mind. Okay, this is same thing. That is we can call computing unit. Okay, so what are the different activation functions are there? Step function, sine function. Sine is nothing but bipolar function. Then sigmoid function. So what is the property of the step function? See here again the entire thing is a node. So here that is a sample perceptron given step function perceptron, because the activation function is step function. See here if you see after summation of the weighted inputs, summation of the weighted inputs, after it's actually here the threshold bias also considers one input. So that is here one. It may be a negative one or positive one. So now if you consider bias value, okay, that is a threshold value, that also as an input, whether positive or negative. Okay, in as a whole, it is a sum of the weighted inputs. That's all. The sum of the weighted inputs. If you give to the activation function, okay, if you give to the activation function, if it is step function, either that value will be classified as 0 or 1. So either it will give 1 or 0. Only two values it will produce as the output. Only two values, either 0 or 1. Okay, so that is the if you use step function. Okay, if you use sine function, either -1 or +1. So there is either 0 or 1. Here -1 to +1. Again two values only. But if you use sigmoid or logistic function, so that is the function. What is the equation for this? 1 by 1 plus e power minus beta x or input, or here in this case age. Okay, or here if you want to give here, that is the weighted sum. Okay, weighted sum. Here instead of minus age, you can put 1 by 1 plus exponential e power minus some weighted sum. Okay, that is the sigmoid function. But it can give multiple values. Multiple values. There are either two values, but it can give any values between the range. But what is the advantage of this one? It will give kind of probability values, either 0 to 1. So the range will be limited to 0 to 1, but in between any value it can give. So that is the sigmoid function, the nature of the sigmoid function. That's why here the third point is mentioned. The sigmoid squeezes all the values to the probability value between 0 and 1. Okay, it is very useful for the binary classifiers. Okay, which reduce the extreme values or outliers in the data with the advantage of the sigmoid. Okay, why we can use sigmoid? This is an important property. Whatever may be the input values, okay, after summation, after summation, the summed value, if we give as an input to the sigmoid activation function, then definitely that output will be the range 0 to 1. Any value, between any values. Then short-range function. This also what is it also can give the probability values. It is very useful for the classifier, that is short-max layer. For a classifier, any classifier, the last layer will be the short-max layer. That will be the that will give the probability values for the different classes. For different classes. So the equation is again e power x j by summation of e power xi. So here the xi, okay, that is the xi is nothing but here is not input. Actually, this is the values from the output of the last layer. We can say output of the last layer. Okay, it is here in the function it is input, but to use as the last layer in the neural network. Okay, so that the previous layer, how many neurons are there? So that many number of outputs you will get. Those outputs will be given as a inputs to the short-max function. That is nothing but here we can say xia. Okay, I think yes. Anybody say doubt? Okay, then we come to the neural network. Definition of the artificial neural network is a system composed of many simple processing elements. So here processing element is nothing but artificial neuron, or we can say perceptron. But what it will do, it can acquire, store and utilize the experiential knowledge. So that is for simple neural network. Okay. So in standard structure of artificial network, input units, hidden units and output units. Input units nothing but just inputs. Okay. Hidden units, we have the layer in between the output layer and the input layer. Output layer we can, that is one more layer. So in general, see here that artificial network is a layered structure. So the first one is input. How many? Suppose you have 10 inputs, then 10 inputs that is will be represented as one layer. That is called input layer. Suppose you have 10 classes. That is the 10 classes. Then that the 10 classes. Okay, so that will be represented as a short-max layer because that will give the 10 output probability values. 10 output in between we can have the hidden layer. Not only one layer, we can have many layers. So in each layer there will be many artificial neurons. Okay, it may be at least one. Okay, at least one. Otherwise, it will not be called as a layer. 1 or 2 or 3. You can have any number of neurons in between input and output. Okay, so this is a simple single neuron perceptron. Neuron perceptron. So see here, because so far I have told you what is the input, what is the weights, and what are other functions, the summation, then activation function. Then we are getting the output after after giving the input to the activation function, we will get the output. Okay. Now see here, we have not seen how that network or a single perceptron can learn. Learning, how it can learn. So that means learning here, as I mentioned earlier, the learning by changing the weights, because here it is a supervised learning. Okay, supervised learning. Suppose there are inputs, we have the labeled data or what is the expected output. Okay, expected output will be there, but through weighted through weights. Okay, we will have the initial output. We will get the initial output, but that may not be equal to the expected output. So the difference between the observed output and expected output, it's nothing but error. Okay, suppose the observed output is not equal to the expected output, then we will change the weights. Then again we will check the what is the output of the activation function. Then output of the activation function is equal to the my expected output, then I will stop. Otherwise, I will not stop. Again, I will change. So this is the way we can change the weights. That is nothing but learning. But there should be a mechanism to change the weights. Simply we cannot change it. So for that, there are different learning rules are there. One of the learning rules is Kipps learning rule. Then other learning rule is famous delta learning rule. Okay, so delta learning rule. So here, in the delta learning rule, here two things. One is objective function. Okay, another one is update in the weights. So two things are very important. One is objective function. Then another one is how to update the weights. Okay, the learning rule should have these two components. Here, because this is a delta learning rule, what is our objective is to minimize the difference between the observed output and expected output. That's why here it's called T. T is a target. Target means expected output, but O is the observed output. Actually, what is the actual output of the perceptron? The difference. Okay, the difference should be. Our aim is, our objective is, the difference between the expected output and observed output should be minimized. So for that, we are here we are having the one objective function, that is the square of the sum of the squares of the difference. Okay, square of the difference. This is the mean square error. We can say some mean square error or square error. Okay, least square error. Actually, it is not mean square error. This is the least square error. That is the objective function. 1/2, and because here the output is only one output. Suppose we have multiple samples, because this is for one sample. If you have multiple samples means multiple set of inputs, So for each inputs, you have the expected output. Okay. So for each sample, you have the expected output. So in general, total error for all the inputs should be minimized. Okay, so this is the square error. So we have to minimize the square error, or we can say least square error. This is the objective function. Okay, this is the objective function. We have to minimize it. So for minimization, it is become the optimization problem. Okay, it becomes the optimization problem. So in optimization problem, either optimization means either maximize the objective function or minimize the objective function. So for that, what we usually will do, we will take the partial derivative. Dou E by dou W. Dou E by dou W should be equal to 0. Actually, dou E is, by dou W should be equal to 0. The derivative should be equal to 0. That means a difference is equal to 0. Dou E by dou W is nothing but, in general, actually the difference should be is equal to 0. That is my our objective. So if you calculate or if you solve the problem, then we will get it delta W. Delta W is equal to minus eta dou E by dou W. Then after that, after simplification, we will get this derivation. So now the weights updated, Wi is equal to Wi plus delta W. Wi. The delta Wi should be calculated by equation, the second equation. Okay. So this is nothing but delta learning rule, or we can say gradient descent algorithm. Okay, gradient descent algorithm. Okay, so here there is a problem. Actually, in the activation function, because we are taking the derivatives. So the activation should be differentiable. If it is non-differentiable, we cannot use it here. Okay, we cannot use it. So whenever you use the delta learning rule, the activation should be the differentiable activation function. So or tan h. So but sign function, step function we cannot use it because it is not differentiable. It is a partially differentiable. So we can use only differentiable activation function when use delta rule or gradient descent algorithm. So what is the limitation of the Perceptron network? Actually, Perceptron network can solve the linearly separable problems. Okay, so linearly separable problems can be solved by the Perceptron network. But in nature, most of the data sets is non-linearly separable data sets. So we cannot use the Perceptron network. We can use, but we cannot get the accuracy. So non-linearly separable problems, to solve the non-linearly separable problems, Perceptron network, it is not good. Yeah, it's not good. So that we can go for the multi-layer Perceptron network. So that is the structure, hidden layer. Okay, so that can be used. That can solve the non-linear problems. So example, multi-layer ANN. So here input points, that is called input. Here it is not actually here there is no neuron, actually input. Okay, that is all input layer. Then this is hidden layers. So hidden layer. So in the hidden layer, actually each neuron indicates summation, threshold. Okay, that also will be given as an input, and then activation function. Okay, then that will be given to the output layer. So here output layer, here only one output, so one neuron. Here also inputs, then activation function, then we will get the output. So this is a multi-layer layer. Okay, so now for this, so next thing is here also we have to use the learning algorithm to change the weights. Okay, to change the weights. So here for single perceptron network, single perceptron network, we have used the delta rule to update the weights. Here also we can use the delta rule, but here it's called generalized delta rule. Otherwise, we can call it back propagation algorithm. Okay, back propagation. So learning algorithm for the multi-layer perceptron is a back propagation. Okay, so but inside a back propagation approach, so what is the why it is called back propagation? See here forward and backward. Actually, the last layer. See here, only one hidden layer. Suppose if we have more than one hidden layer 1, hidden layer 2, like that. So now the last layer, okay, last layer weights will be updated based on the outputs of the network. But the weights of the previous layer will be updated based on the adjustment of the weights and the thresholds of the next layer. Okay, the previous layer, because we will come from the backward. So now the errors is propagated from the backward direction to the forward direction. So that is called back propagation algorithm. Okay, so that is a strategy to update the weights. Okay, back propagation algorithm. It is invented in 1986. Okay, so this is back propagation. So in the back propagation algorithm also, the objective is to minimize the error. To minimize the error between the difference between the observed output and the expected output. So this is here also the delta weight, that weights to be updated. There is a delta W, the weights, the minimal weight to be updated delta W, that is generalized delta rule, same thing. Okay. Then after updation, okay, after updation we will get the new weights. Again we will calculate the output, okay, observed output. Then that output will be equated to the expected output. Then we will find the difference. The difference is more. Then again we will update the weights. So like that it will happen until the current error, the difference between the current error and the previous error is minimum. Okay, so that is called, every time it's called epoch. We can call it epoch, iteration. Okay, so this is about the artificial. See, we will start with the perceptron modeling, then perceptron network, then learning rule for perceptron, then what is the trapback of the perceptron, and how that is welcomed by the multilayer, that is multilayer perceptron network. Then what is the learning algorithm for multilayer perceptron network? Okay, so that those things we have seen so far. Now the training, because the learning, I told that learning. Okay, then how we will make the model to learn. Okay, so for that we call train data sets. We use the data sets to learn, to make the network to learn, because learning by changing the weights. Okay, so first before use the network for practical purpose in real life, we have to make the network to learn. So for that we use the data set to make the network to learn. So that data sets we are calling it training data set. Okay, training data sets. So when you train the network, okay, what are things important? One of the concepts is generalization. So generalization here we will call underfitting and overfitting. So here, if you see then the graph, suppose the thoughts are the what is my expected. We can say that is expected output. But observed output, if you draw the graph, okay, my option, because there are weights. Using weights only you will get the observed output. Okay, now the observed output, okay, exactly match the expected output. Then that is it is not a good generalization. Okay, that is not a good generalization because it can work only on the training data set. But it may not use it because there will be a training data set and actual data set. Actual data set, there is a new values. Because once you train the network in the training data set, it may give 100% accuracy. But when you give the new value, when you use it similar type data, okay, to in order to produce the similar type input in order to produce the output, it may not work. Okay, so in this case it is not having the good generalization. Okay, so that is the control of the that is the important. That is the important thing. So generalization means that network, okay, are weights, because that our output is related to weights. Okay, so generalization also is generalization is also related to weights. So because learning depends on the weights. Okay, learning happens in the weights only. So if you have good weights, it should have the good generalization. That means it should work well in the trained data set as well as the tested data set also. Okay, then only the learned weights are good weights. So how we can control the effective weights? So here, that's why here that another way it is called overfitting and overtraining. Okay, overfitting and overtraining. It is called overtraining. So overfitting, overtraining means the training that actually my outputs, okay, my observed outputs are equal to the training data set. Actually, that is the outputs, the ground truth. That is nothing exact same. Okay, there is no error. Or error is very minimum. Then it's called overtraining or overfitting. Because if it is a case, then it may not work for a testing. Okay, testing data set. So when you calculate the error, okay, so the training data set error and the testing data set error, okay, should have the same pattern, should have the same trend, or we can say should have the same trend. Okay, otherwise it will not be a good network. So how we can prevent the overtraining? So use a separate test and test or tuning set of examples. Monitor error on the test set as a network trains. Stop network training just prior to overfit error.
Class?
That's second.
Second.
11:30. So, and number of effective weights can be reduced. So, this is actually here. Okay. So, how we can prevent the overtraining? Okay, we have to observe the error trend for training as well as error trend for training data set as well as the error trend for the testing data set. Okay, so the pattern either higher error to lower error. Okay, so that is the trend. So for testing error and training error having same trend. Okay, that is same trend means it's going down. Then it is not a problem. We can extend the abates. But any one of the things start to raise, okay, start to increase, then we have to stop the training. Okay, so that is in that way we can stop the overtraining. So network design and training. Suppose you want to design a network or you want to train the network. What are the different strategies we can follow to design the network and the training? So in the design, architecture of network, structure of the artificial neurons and the learning rules. So in the design, the three things are very important. One is architecture of the network. Okay, architecture of the network, how many layers should be there? Okay, how many layers in the network? And the structure of the artificial neuron. So each layer, how many neurons? And what is the type of activation function we can use? So that and all we have to decide. That is the trial and error method only, or nature of the data set. Okay, for that you should know what is my activation function, what is the nature of the each activation function. The basic things you have to know, you have to understand. Okay, basic things. Otherwise, you cannot design the network. Then next important thing, learning rules. Okay, learning rule. Suppose that is a multi-layer perceptron network. Definitely, you should go for backpropagation. In the backpropagation, what is the optimization? That is a stochastic gradient descent optimization algorithm, or even momentum. Okay, Adam optimization. There are different optimization algorithms there. Even they are using other heuristic algorithms also that researchers are using to optimize the backpropagation algorithm. Okay, that optimization is used in the backpropagation algorithm. So that is you have to select the learning rules also. Next one, training. So in the training, what are the important factors? So the adjustment, the hybrid, that is the learning parameters, data preparation. Okay, then how we prepare the samples. Okay, because those suppose when you prepare the sample, okay, usually the training samples. Okay, training samples you can use selecting the suppose in the training data sets you have the 1,000 samples. So all 1,000 samples you have to train all together, or you can divide into different fold. That is a 1,000 samples means you can select 100. Okay. First 100 you train it, then the weights obtained on that 100 may be used in the second 100. So in which pattern, which strategy you can train the network. So these are all contribution only. So in the network design, these are the things we can concentrate. How many layers, how many nodes per layer, determines the number of the network weights. Okay, so these are the hyperparameters. Okay, we can trial and error only we can select. And there are automated methods. Okay, weight pruning, elimination, and all. You can use that tools also. Okay, then structure the artificial neural nodes. Okay, the input whether summation, squared, or multiplied, that function. Sum of the weighted inputs or multiplication of the weighted inputs or squared weighted inputs, sum of the squared weighted inputs. So that also we can choose. Then choice of the activation function, whether sigmoid logistic function, hypertangent, hyperbolic tangent, or Gaussian, or linear, or softmax. Okay, so that is the that are the different activation functions that we can select. Select the linear rule. This is a different linear rule. Generalized delta rule, momentum, descent, advanced weight space search techniques, flow barrier function. Okay, these are different linear rules. Are there? Even that tools. The tools, many optimizers are there. You can choose one of the optimizers or different optimizers. What is the performance? You check it. Then find optimization for a particular problem. And network training. How do you ensure that the network has been well trained? See, that is to achieve good generalization. Okay, good generalization. Establish a maximum acceptable error rate. Train the network using the validation test data to tune it. Validate the trained data against a separate test data set. See here, I think that. Okay, here is there. I will see it. Okay. Network approach one. Actually, available samples we can divide 70-30% or 80-20%. Training data set. Okay, you learn the weights from the 70% of the training set. Then use the learned weights to produce the output for the 30% of the inputs. Okay, actually, training data set and the testing data sets both are inputs only to the network. What is the corresponding outputs for each input? Okay, for each input. Using that only we will calculate the error. Okay, the error. So first use the training data set. Okay, to learn the weights. Then the learned weights are used to test the samples in the test data set. Okay, then you check the weights produced by the learned weights and what is the current truth value. That is the error. Okay, 90%, 10%, like that we can repeat 10 times. 10 times means so 90 any 10% of the weights you can take. Okay, for test data set. So like that, repeatedly, you have to train the network. Okay, train the network. You can get the that is a cross validation. Okay, cross validation. And then what is the final weights? So that you can calculate based on the error. Then how do you select between two ANN designs? Okay, that is we can use the study test of the hypothesis. This is to ensure that significant difference exists between the error rates of the two ANN models. We have the two ANN models. You can go for statistical test. Then what are the different ANN parameters? Learning rate, because in the weight operation that parameter is there. Then momentum, weight, cost. Momentum parameter, that is also used in the updation of the weight and weight cost. These are the things. The range also you have to know. You cannot see the range is given, but usually sometimes 0.001 the learning weight. So momentum parameter. So this is called fine tuning the parameters. Fine tuning the parameters in order to get the better accuracy. There are different methods for network weight initiation, because initial weights, what would be the initial weight? Because initial weights are important to converge faster, to get the convergence faster. So this is the typical problems during the training. See here the iteration, that is we can say a book. So what is the error? Okay, suppose if you have a training data set as well as the test data set, you can calculate the first. Okay, this is the study that how you, what you have to observe in order to get the good model. Okay, see here the x-axis is the iteration, y-axis is the error. See now error first initially the error is high, then after number of iteration it is going down, then this is a steady and rapid decline in total error. So it is a no problem. Okay, then second one, second here it is going down, but after that it is not reaching the as low as possible, but in between it becomes steady. So there is no learning, reduced learning or momentum parameter. See here the problem is, see this is the other observation. In this case what we have to do, okay, we have to adjust the weights or we have to change the learning parameter and momentum parameter. The another one, so here if you have the trend like this, iteration versus error, so down and up and down and up. See this is the case, then the data is not learnable. Okay, then what you have to do, you have to pre-process the data or something happens in the data. Okay, so this is the when you train the network, these things you have to observe. These things you have to observe. So then data preparation. Okay, data preparation is the one of the important point before giving to the train the model. Okay, so suppose if you give the garbage in, then we will get garbage out. So the cleaning, data cleaning is very important. So that's why we will say data cleaning, pre-processing, and transformation and the input. Because data learning the nature of the data and data cleaning is very important parameter to achieve the better accuracy or better results. So we have to data preparation also is very important component in the AI model development. So here four basic data types: nominal, ordinal, interval, and continuous. Okay. So, but these data types should be changed into other form. But backup AN accept only continuous numerical value, typically 0 to 1. So from this, what is a conclusion? It should be normalized, which is 0 to 1. Okay, whatever maybe the inputs should be normalized. So data normalization is important before giving to the model, before giving as input to the ANN model. Okay, determine the appropriate input attributes. Suppose the input data, okay, how many columns or how many variables are there? What are the important variables, or we can say attributes? Not necessary to give all the attributes, then automatically it will be computational cost, because accordingly you have to design the input neurons. Okay, so we have to before giving to the model, we have to select the or fix the number of attributes. That's why it is called a feature selection method. Okay, feature selection. Then consult data into working data that eliminate and or estimate the missing values. That also then this under data preparation. Consolidation that is a data preparation, removing outliers, estimate the missing values. Okay, then select the number of attributes to be used for data network training. And then this is selection pre-process, selecting the samples. Okay, reduce the attribute dimension, reduce the attribute value range. That's why we are going for the normalization or quantization. So these are the steps: reduce attribute and then remove redundant or correlated attributes, combine attributes. Okay, so the combine, in order to combine attributes, we can use sum, multiply, difference, okay, etc. We can use for reduce the attribute dimension, but at the same time, it will not affect the results. And the transformation encoding. Suppose natural language processing, if you want to use in the sentences, actually that is the sentences are converted into vectors. Okay, so vector. So that transformation, and also we have to encode it. The transformation from one format to another format. That format is accepted by the AI network. That is the ultimate aim of the transformation and the encoding. Then pros and cons of the backpropagation algorithm. Okay. So what is the T merits? It is a local minimum, but not generally a concern. But it is not a generally a concern, but it is a local minimum. So that once we have the objective function and equations, we can use any optimization algorithm or any strategy, other strategy, instead of backpropagation, other strategy to optimize the error. Okay, that is the thing. And the space time complexity, and also it is a black box. Okay, so each what is the data flow, what is the output of each map, and all, nothing will be there. And best suited for supervised learning. Not, it is not for unsupervised learning. So supervised learning, that is a classification, unsupervised clustering. So it may not perform well for the clustering, to solve the clustering problem, and then works poorly on the dense data with few input variables. So data is bulk, but the variables are less, it may not work. So that's all we keep in mind. And what is the merits? Proven training method for multilayer nets, because backpropagation is a good strategy to train the very complex network, even any number of layers. Then able to learn any arbitrary function. Example, it's most useful for nonlinear mapping, nonlinear data. Works well for noisy data. Generalized well given sufficient examples. Rapid technical speed has inspired many new learning algorithms. These are the backpropagation algorithm. Actually, backpropagation algorithm, then the learn algorithm used for artificial neural network. So artificial neural network, when you use artificial neural network, these things you have to keep in mind. Data preparation is very important. Train the network is very important, and design the network, that is important. Okay, these things you have to learn. Okay. Now come to the convolution neural network. That is the convolution is convolutions. Actually, convolution is a mathematical operation. Okay, convolution is a mathematical operation, but it can be represented as the it is a neural network structure. It can be represented as a neural network structure. Okay, but as a neural network structure, it can do convolution operation. Okay, so we will discuss that. Then after that we will see two examples. Okay. So convolution, let's say convolution neural network. So now, so far I have taken what is neural network. Now convolution neural network. Okay. So convolution operation, then how we can make it as a neural network structure. So first you should know what is my convolution operation. That I think you should know, but my continuity I am giving what is my convolution. Okay, so convolution, there will be a filter. So 0, 1, 0, 1, minus 4, 1, 0, 1, 0. Actually, this filter is the Laplacian filter. Okay, Laplacian filter. Here, that is filter is a 3 plus 3 filter. The same thing is visualized as the image. Okay, this is the numeric value. This is the image. So, what is the convolution? What is meant by convolution? So, how it is very useful for the image processing or computer vision problem, because with the help of this filter we can extract the that is a correlation or neighboring pixel information from the image. Okay, so if you use convolution, that is if you use a filter, with the help of the filter you can extract some information from the given image. Okay, that information related to neighboring pixel information. Actually, among the neighboring pixels, how neighboring pixels are correlated? Is there any relation between the neighboring pixels? That information can be extracted through the filter. Okay, that information can be extracted through filter. Suppose here I am using this filter. So, what type of information can give from the image, or what kind of information we can obtain by applying this filter on the over the image. See here, this is the image, input image. Okay, this is the input image. If you apply convolution operation on this is the filter image, this is the input image. If you apply the filter on that image, one information I can get from this image. What that information? See, this is when you visualize as the numeric value. See, image is a color value. It's a two-dimensional array of the pixels. Each location is a pixel value, it's a color value. Okay, so when you see it internally, that is the color values, only numeric values only. Okay, now if you do the convolution operation, so after convolution, applying the filter, convoluted image will have the, if you see that image, it is nothing but edge image. Okay, so from this, what is the conclusion? Actually, if you extract the neighboring pixel information, we can see where edges are there. Wherever edges, the edge is nothing but color change. Okay, color change is nothing but edge. So where edge is there, we can see it from that applying this filter. Because this information can be used for classification. Okay, this is nothing but feature. Okay, convoluted image. So by applying filter, we can get the convoluted image. Now the problem is, I know the filter, okay, filter values, because filter contains the filter values, right? Filter contains the filter values. Right? So with the help of these values, I can extract this information. But the same thing, in other way, we can say, if you know the input image, if you know the convoluted image, definitely you can get the filter values. Okay, we can get the filter values. So I know the input image, I know the output image. What could be the output? Then definitely I can get the convolution, the filter values. Okay, that thing we are going to do in the convolutional neural network. Okay. So what is the convolution? See, suppose input image 4x4, the filter 2x2. Then if you do the convolution operation, just the dot product of the or vector multiplication over the image. So vector multiplication of the filter over the image, or dot product of the filter over the image, given image. 2 plus 2 means, see here, that is the typical operation. Okay, you will get the values h1, h2, h3 like that. So this is the, see, this is a filter 1. Again we can apply filter 2. That is the output after applying filter 1, that's a feature map. Then output after getting the filter 2, feature map 2. So like that I can have the different feature maps, but by way of filters. So now W1, W2, W3, W4. Okay. First, I can use default values. So now the same thing, just you can imagine as the neural network structure. Neural network, what is the inputs are there, weights are there, weighted inputs given to the activation function, we are getting the output. Same way we can think about this also. See here, weights are there, then inputs are there. Okay, then we will get the weighted sum. Okay, weighted sum. That's why here it is given weighted sum. Okay, this is the weighted sum. Okay, after that you can give to the this is the okay. So this is the weighted sum. Okay, so this is the convoluted image. Okay, so this structure convolution we can visualize as the neural network structure. Okay, here also filter values, that is weights are there, inputs are there. We can apply the sum of the, if you calculate the sum of the weights, then you will get the outputs. That is a feature, another feature. Say actually here no single value. Actually that is we will get the multiple values only. Again that is the image filter image. So the problem is suppose you know the output and you know the input, definitely W1, W2, W3, W4 will be can be predicted. That is nothing but learning. Okay, based on the output. So based on the expected output, so the filter values will be learned. Okay, filter values will be learned. That is nothing but a similar thing to our neural network. That's why this is a special network. It's a convolutional neural network. Then activation function. Here, new activation function is introduced. That is a ReLU, rectifies linear network. So here previously we have seen that sigmoid. Okay, sigmoid activation function, step function, sine function, hyperbolic tangent function, etc. But here there is one more ReLU function. That is one more activation function. That's a ReLU. That is a mathematical equation for that max of 0, x. Okay, actually that is if it is negative value, it will give the 0. If it is a positive value, input is the positive value, the same value will be given. So that is the function of the ReLU. Because this is in the neural network structure, ReLU function is mostly used because training much faster. Okay, less expensive operation compared to sigmoid and tangent, and more expressive and prevents the gradient vanishing problem. Actually, that gradient is nothing but tau E by tau W. Actually, when you take the derivative, because weights will be obtained based on the delta W. Okay, weights will be obtained using delta W. Gradient vanishing problem comes, then the delta W becomes 0. Then no updates in the weights. So no learning will be stopped. So, but no learning, that updation will be stopped, but accuracy may not be attained. So that that problem should be avoided. So other activation function may give that type of problem, but this ReLU can avoid that problem. Okay. So this is see here. This is the overfitting. See here, tested training. Okay, test and training. So underfitting. See, overfitting means the testing and the training error should be close to each other. Okay, testing training the curve should be close. Okay, then only it is a good generalization. Okay. So overfitting means training accuracy, that is error because of the training is low, but error in the testing data set is high. Okay, so that is overfitting. It is not achieving good generalization. Then another important concept in the convolutional network. So convolutional network, when you talk about the convolutional network, so ReLU activation function, and then pooling layer and the convolution layers. Okay, you see here that pooling. it is a kind of a dimensional that downsampling. Okay, we can reduce the number of, suppose the image is 16 cross 16, I want to reduce to 4 cross 4. Okay, so for that either I can use max pooling and average pooling. Max pooling means, so if you take 2 cross 2, among 4 values, you take only one value. Whether you can do average or you can take the maximum value. Okay, so in that way, see 4 cross 4 can be reduced to 2 cross 2. That is it is nothing but downsampling. Okay, it will be useful to speed up the training process. At the same time, accuracy will not be affected. And fully connected layer. So here, suppose we have the two-dimensional values that will flatten, make it a single layer. Single vector. That is a multi-row single column. That is a flattened, fully connected layer. Because convolution operation different, neural network that is a network layer is a different. Convolution layer that we can write it as a neural network structure. Finally, that will produce the set of outputs. That is that outputs will be flattened. Okay, then that will be given as an input to the network layer. That is the fully connected layer. Then output layer is a softmax activation function. So that we have discussed it previously. Okay. Then last function. Previously we have discussed that is least square error. This is entropy. Okay, cross entropy last function. It will be working based on the probability value. Okay, what is the probability value for the observed data, observed output? Observed output. What is the observed output probability? What is the ground truth probability? Ground truth probability always 1. Okay. But what is the observed probability value? Based on that, this will okay. This will work. Sometimes we can have the both. That is YA is the desired output label. Okay, desired output. That is in general. That is the output label. Then Y cap is the CNN is a prediction. Okay. So this is a typical convolutional neural network. So this is here input layer. That is an image 28 plus 28. That is a input image. From that we will apply the filter. That is how many filters. One filter means we will get one feature. Again one image. Okay, 5 filters we apply irrespective of the size of the filter. Okay, size of the filter you will get the image. Okay, one filter we get, you get the one image. So how many images you are getting? So like that, actually this is each layer. Okay, this is a way of different processing. Okay, finally we will get the two-dimensional array that will be flat and that will be given to the neural network layer. So here with the help of the max pooling layer, we can reduce the samples in the each layer. Suppose you are giving the input image size 28 plus 28. In the next layer, it can be reduced to 14 plus 14 also with the help of the pooling layer. Okay, actually, to anybody's having doubt so far? Anybody stand out? Okay, let me explain one how we have used for human action recognition. Okay. Actually, I thought of discussing two, but only I stopped with this one, only one. So ANN I have taken, then CNN. Now, how we can use CNN for to solve the computation problem? Okay. So here we have taken action recognition, human action recognition. Whenever you talk about the CNN, in the input to CNN is image. Okay, input to the CNN is image. For this problem, human action recognition problem, we have considered the data, skeleton data. Actually, here either human recognition can be done with the help of RGB image, as well as we can use the depth data. From the depth data, we can have the skeleton data. So here a sample image I have shown, that is skeleton, 20 joints are there, skeleton data. For this problem, we have considered the skeleton data only. Skeleton data, we have not taken the image. We are not taking the image. We have used depth image, but not depth image directly, RGB image. From that, we have extracted the skeleton data. We use the skeleton data for human action recognition. In the human skeleton data, that skeleton data contains 20 joints. So we have extract the features. First, actually CNN itself can give the features, but before giving to the CNN, we also extract the features. That features converted into image. From that image, again features extracted. That features are used for classification. Okay, that's the human action classification. Actually, here we have used 60. Sorry, we have considered 60 different human actions. Okay, 60. Okay, so here, what is the speech? What are the features that we have considered? That is the spatial features and the temporal features. Here, action is a type of a spatial temporal event. Spatial temporal event. So one action is made of, actually is one action means one action is not it is not recognized from one image. Actually, we will consider sequence of images. That is we can say in the video sequence of frame. Okay, sequence of a frame. So we extract the features within the frame as well as the between the frame. That means within the frame, within the skeleton data, within the skeleton of the one frame, or between the skeleton between the frames. So that's why here spatial data and temporal data. So here the features we have the spatial features as well as the temporal features. So the features that we have used, that the distances and differences, that the equidistance and differences between the joints. Okay, so the joints we are taken hip joints and the shoulder joints. So what are the equidistance between the hip center to all other joints and the shoulder center to all other joints. So that's why we have two groups. Okay, spatial feature 1 and spatial feature 2. So now based on, because this is depth data, so we can have x, y, z coordinate for each point represented by x, y, z point. Okay. So x, y, z and x, y, y, z. So all the coordinates we extract the equivalent distance and the equivalent difference. So equivalent distance as well as the difference. Okay. So after extracting the features, that features is converted into image. How that? So first we have normalized. Okay, we have normalized 0 to 1. After that, it multiply with the grayscale value 0 to 255. Then we can have the image. So each feature set. Okay, each feature set is having the one image. Then that image is given to the CNN. That is a convolutional network, but we have used predefined neural network model. That is a RN. Sorry, ResNet 50. Okay, ResNet 50. Then that produces the scores. That is a classification scores. So like that, all the 8 CNN we have used. So 8 scores. After that, we applied multiplicative fusion. That is that element-wise multiplication. That is will produce the final score. That is a spatial net. Temporal net. So temporal net, that the spatial equidistance between the, so not equidistance, the difference between the between the joints in one frame to another frame. That is a temporal. So again, the same process that will be converted into image, that will be converted to the CNN. Again, the multiplicative score we have used. Now temporal net. So spatial net and temporal net. So then next, then another type of features, there is a body part. Okay, body part, that is based on the right hand, right leg, left hand, right leg. We have used 5 body parts. So we have used body part features. Okay, body part features. This is this body part features between the frames. Okay, between the frames. Then we have proposed one LSTM based network. That is the pi-LSTM. Then dropout layer. Again, this is a base net. We have developed a base net, dropout layer and the fully connected layer. Now that base net, so we have extracted 3 type of features: PNF1, PNF2, PNF3. Then the PNF1 given to, because here not necessary to convert into image, directly we can give to the pi-LSTM, because it is a LSTM network. So we have framed the body net. Then with the help of the body net and S net, we have designed the hybrid net. That is a H net. Now the performance of the all the nets given in the table, recognition accuracy. So there are 3 data sets: UTT MHAD, UT kinetic, and NT RGBT. So cross subject and cross view. See here the performance is given. Okay. The HNet, it is giving better accuracy than other SNet, TNet and body net. But still, in order to improve that, we ensembled with the SNet and the HNet. Okay, so we get the best accuracy than other nets we have designed. Now that method is compared to all other that existing works. So that is given among around 10. We have compared the results of the 10 previous works. So our results is 10 better accuracy. So this is first published in Pattern Recognition Journal. Okay. So this, from this, what is conclusion is first you should learn the fundamental. What is ANN? Then what is CNN? Then think about the problem. Okay, think about the problem and think about the features, type of features you have to use. That is the data. Okay, I have told that data preparation. What type of data, dimensions, and attributes. So here for action recognition, so we have used the that is joints. Okay, that is a skeleton data. So there will be joints. So in that joints, is there a joints with the human action? Okay. Then what type of features we have to extract? Okay. What type of features we have to extract? Then that features directly we can use those features for classification. Okay. That features we can use the classification. We can use support retardation or other classifier to get the accuracy. But at the same time, so in order to improve the accuracy, to get the better accuracy, because it is have 60 classes. It contains 60 classes the data set. So this network should work on the 60 classes. Even now 120 classes available, actually more than 60 classes available. In order to get the accuracy, in order to improve the accuracy, you have to think, okay, how we can make it, or how we can use the other advanced neural network architectures. Okay, advanced neural network architectures to improve the accuracy. So in that line, we got idea and we have framed these networks. Finally, we got the results. Okay, I think I stop with this set. Okay, time is 11:20. I have class 11:30. Anybody is having doubt, please ask me. I will close the session.
Participants, is there any queries?